The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the Oregon Suicide Prevention Framework. We will use the youth work as our example and explain how the initiatives listed in the Youth Suicide Intervention and Prevention Plan, or YSIP, fit into this framework. The Oregon Suicide Prevention Framework is the blueprint for both the adult plan, called the ASIP, and the youth plan, called the YSIP. The ASIP is not published at the time this video is recorded, but was also developed to fit into the framework I will be outlining today. Oregon Suicide Prevention Framework was developed in close collaboration with the University of Oregon Suicide Prevention Lab under the leadership of Dr. John Seeley. It is grounded in the National Strategy for Suicide Prevention and the CDC's Technical Package for Suicide Prevention. The framework was informed by the San Diego Suicide Prevention Plan and shaped by hundreds of pieces of feedback from partners, experts, and people with relevant lived experience across the great state of Oregon. In this video, we will walk you through the infographic that captures the major pieces of the framework. We will get into the more detailed initiatives. When we get into the more detailed initiatives, in this video, we will walk you through the infographic that captures the major pieces of the framework. When we get into the more detailed initiatives, the infographic simply cannot hold all of the text. It would be unreadable in this format, and so we will show you where to find that level of detail via a spreadsheet format. More on that later. We will start at the bottom of the framework with its foundation. Whatever work we do, it must stand on thoughtful and effective policy, on adequate and sustained funding. It must be rooted in data and informed by meaningful evaluation. The framework stands on this foundation. Let's look at the center. Now let's look at the center of the framework. Next, let's look at the center of the framework. As the framework was being developed, it was abundantly clear that all of our work must be centered through the lens of equity, done in a way that's guided by trauma-informed practices, and by leaning on people with relevant lived experience as the experts. Knowing that we cannot do this work alone, we need to lean into a collective impact and find ways to work in collaboration. We know that we have a lot of work to do to get better at each of these centering pieces. And they're placed in the center of this framework to remind us of the work that we have to do. Our commitment is that we will continually work towards making sure the how we do the work and the what of each initiative that we prioritize are centered in each of these concepts. The framework was organized in 3 sections. Taking lessons learned from multi-tiered systems of support model that's often used in education. The green section is universal. This work is meant for all Oregonians to interface with, experience, and benefit from. Other buzzwords that you might recognize here are primary prevention, upstream prevention, and tier 1 strategies. Here you will find the work of organizing and integrating local coalitions, the Alliance to Prevent Suicide, work around information dissemination and safe messaging strategies, linking to social determinants of health, to the work of suicide prevention, and opportunities for coping and connection as protective factors to lean into when life is hard. The yellow section is selected. This work is for the specific places and spaces, sectors, or groups of Oregonians. Other buzzwords you might recognize here are prevention, primary intervention, or tier 2 strategies. Here you will find most of the Big River programming. Here you will find most of the Big River suicide prevention training programs, safe storage and other projects around lethal means, and extra programming aimed at identifying risk early and often. The orange section is indicated. This work is for services and supports, treatments and policies needed for those who have been identified as experiencing thoughts of suicide, who have made suicide attempts or are experiencing chronic suicide ideation. This section is also where postvention supports and strategies show up in the framework. As we work our way outward from the middle of the framework, we have buckets of work within each colored section that we're calling strategic goals. These are broad areas we need to do work in order to make progress in the field of suicide prevention. Each goal has pathways embedded. Each goal has named pathways embedded. The goals are the desired destination or outcome, and the pathways are how we get there. It should be noted that all of what you see here on the infographic, lenses, the strategic pillars, goals, and pathways, will not change over the life of this 5-year plan. What will be updated annually are the strategic priority initiatives attached to each pathway. Those initiatives are listed in a spreadsheet format, and I'll talk more about that later. Like I mentioned, there is not space on this infographic to contain all of the text once you get to the pathway level. We have picked 2 to 3 words to summarize each pathway and included 2 ways to see the whole pathway description. One way is to hover over or click on the question marks attached to each pathway. When you do this, the full sentence description of the pathway appears, and if you click on it, it pops up in the outermost area of the infographic. We have found this option to be helpful when considering the framework as a whole and determining where a specific initiative might live. For example, if your local suicide prevention coalition wants to do a safe messaging campaign for Mental Health Awareness Month, that would be a green or universal strategy. It would fit in the green section in the goal named Media and Communication and the pathway called Promoting Wellness. When you click on that pathway, you see the full description of youth serving entities routinely and strategically promote wellness, emotional strength, mutual aid examples, and protective factors. We find this the most useful way to use this level of the framework. It is less helpful to use this infographic when you are looking at the list of already named and prioritized initiatives. There are 103 initiatives included in the 2021-2022 YSIP plan. These are the specific tasks and projects that the state is supporting or developing within each pathway. To find out more about the YSIP initiatives, we suggest you access a spreadsheet called YSIP 21-22 Strategic Priority Initiatives. You can find that spreadsheet on the Oregon Alliance to Prevent Suicide website by clicking on or hovering over policy and then Youth Suicide Intervention and Prevention Plan. It's not here yet, but it will be. Click there. That will bring you to a spreadsheet. That will bring you to a spreadsheet that looks like this. On this spreadsheet, you'll find the same format with the same color coding, only in spreadsheet. On the spreadsheet, you will find the same framework with the same color coding, only in list format. It contains the same 3 colors for organization that match the Oregon Suicide Prevention Framework infographic in the first column of the spreadsheet. You will find 103 initiatives that Oregon Suicide Prevention champions, including the OHA Suicide Prevention Team and the Oregon Alliance to Prevent Suicide, selected as priority work to develop, continue, or grow over the years of 2021 and 2022. You can find information on the spreadsheet about which organization and which human are leading each initiative. You can find the status of the project and a short narrative update about the progress of each initiative. While most of this work is assigned to OHA or our contractors, you will find 15 initiatives that are assigned to the Oregon Alliance to Prevent Suicide. In a separate video, the Alliance staff will walk you through how to find the most up-to-date information about the progress on Alliance-led initiatives. It is important to note that these 103 initiatives listed on the spreadsheet are nowhere near the entirety of what work is being done in Oregon in the field of suicide prevention. So much good work is happening in communities around our state. We hope that you will spend some time with this framework and find where your work lives. That way, we can begin to paint a more accurate picture of suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention landscape in Oregon. It's also important to note that in the fall of 2022, OHA's suicide prevention team will begin work in close collaboration with the Alliance to Prevent Suicide and our county partners to choose the state level 2023 strategic priority initiatives that show up in the spreadsheet. Thank you.